So hello everyone, and today is St. Valentine's Day, the special day of the heart and heart sharing, love sharing. So we thought this was an apt subject to talk about, heart coherence today. And it's been, on a personal level, it's been fantastic to dive into this a little bit more for me. And I really hope that everyone listening to this is going to get something beneficial out of this. So we're doing a slightly different style today, and we are having a chat amongst some of our ALA members. So I would like to introduce you to our members. Of course, you probably know me because I'm often on the screen. I'm Maniisha Bluntschli and from Western Australia. We've also got Andrew Barrett and Amanda Hoffmann. So maybe, Andrew, you might like to say a quick hello, and then Amanda.
Yeah, hello. Yeah, I'm just coming from the background of light, colour and sound associated with the International Light Association, and particularly helping out with their website. But, I've got a strong interest, and I've worked as a practitioner to do with coherence, particularly with the whole body. And I think the heart is really a driver in that whole experience. And so I want to look at ways in which we can use meditation, use the heart math exercises to really bring that coherence about in the heart, and particularly between the heart and the mind, and to bring that intuition out. So yeah, I'm really excited about what we've got today.
Thanks, Andrew.
And me. Hello, I'm Amanda. I'm also one of the Australasian Light Association committee members. And I have an association also with the ILA, but behind the scenes mostly for a number of years now. And I come to, I guess, colour and light from the perspective of my own personal health and wellness journey, trying to incorporate colour and light into my life. And heart coherence is something I have known about. And Maniisha is going to introduce, I guess, the major focus later today, but I haven't really consciously followed it. It's been more instinctive, I suppose, but I might talk about that a bit later. So hello and welcome, and yeah, let's start.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Andrew and Amanda. I thought that we would start talking about the heart. Obviously, that's where it all starts, with heart coherence. So I wanted to remind you all, often when we think about the heart, we think that it's a physical organ, but it's actually so much more than that. And I have discovered so much since I've been looking into this subject of heart coherence. So I was just going to mention a couple of things that is specific to the heart. One of the things is that the heart emits an electromagnetic field, which changes. It changes all the time according to what emotions we're actually feeling. So that's pretty cool. That's amazing to know. So positive emotions, such as feeling compassion or love or care or kindness, appreciation and gratitude in particular, all have a really beneficial effect, physiological effect on our body. So that's great to know. And as well as that, you can actually boost your immune system just by conjuring up positive feelings. So remembering something which is pleasant and just feeling that feeling, we can do so much for our body. And the same is on the opposite. If we start to feel agitated or nervous or stressed, it has a real negative physiological effect on our body. And actually, I just wanted to give a quick example, and maybe Amanda and Andrew, you might like to as well, but I just got news yesterday of a friend who's just suffered a major stroke. And he was in a really tricky, stressful situation for a long period of time and working very hard. His main offhand, he worked a restaurant, and his offsider left only a week ago. And lo and behold, he's had a really massive stroke, which I was very shocked to hear. But then thinking about it, all the stress that has that impact on our nervous system, I'm not surprised that something had to give in the heart and the circulatory system. Actually, Amanda and Andrew, you can probably think of situations as well where people have had negative emotions and it's had a spin-off, maybe in your own life, that it's had a physical effect on you. I don't know if you wanted to share something.
I probably wasn't going to, but you're making me, I guess, because it's relevant. I guess in my younger years, in my 30s, I became very ill with an autoimmune disease. And looking back, I can see that that was very much as a result of emotions, as you say, low vibrational energy, negative emotions, so sadness, grief, all those sorts of things. And so, yeah, for me, there's definitely a connection with that, yes. But then on the opposite side, when I am wanting to lift myself up, then I do positively raise my vibrational energy, focus on gratitude, on blessings, on small joys in life. And that's where I am now, you know, so definitely.
Mm. Yeah, and for me, again, I see it in people's lives all around me, but in a personal experience, a couple of years ago, I was really stressed through work, particularly, and I wasn't handling it very well. And as a result, it was affecting my nervous system, and then it started impacting my heart. So there was all pain around the heart, and yeah, it was really, I was getting very concerned because the whole body started falling apart, basically. And then I had to learn some better ways to handle it. And then I noticed, you know, as I was able to handle it, then, you know, the pain started going away. And, you know, I particularly noticed when I do meditation, you know, often if I am really involved in the meditation, the area of the heart is like a cool mint. So it definitely has a feeling aspect that you can directly sense as to the state that you're in. So yeah, fortunately, I'm a lot better state now.
That's wonderful. Yes, and I'm happy to hear, Amanda, that you're saying that you're on the road of positive feelings or work on yourself, so that impacts your physical self as well.
Yeah. Well, I had to really, because I'm going to tell my pandemic story. Everyone's got a pandemic story, but that's really crucial to where I am now with connection to heart, I think. Because when 2020 started and everything closed or whatever, I was actually traveling and I was having 5 days en route to Europe. And then Australia closed, other places closed. I thought, well, I stay put for however long it took. And however long it took was a long time. And so 1 year went by. And it was interesting listening. I was listening to some of the recordings about focusing on heart. And it mentioned that we're always distracted, always busy, never giving time to focus on how we're feeling, I suppose. So when you're in lockdown for month after month, and after 15 months, it got a bit difficult, I suppose. And you forget about it now, but I've been reading emails, and it was very distressing. It was very anxious. It was a period of time where there was so much uncertainty. And I was developing physical symptoms and high blood pressure. So doctors were saying, you know, need to go on medication, all this sort of thing. And you run out of things to do after 15 months or so, don't you? Anyway, at some point, I had to talk to myself and just went with intuition. I've always tried to follow intuition. And so when I realized that I was not in a good state, emotionally or physically, I just started doing whatever I felt like doing. So if I woke up at 2 a.m., I could do Qigong on the balcony. It was quiet there in a busy city because normally I can't sleep when it's a very busy place. So I did whatever I felt like doing whenever I felt like doing it. So I was very internal, I suppose. So when you've got nowhere to go and nowhere to be and nothing to do, you have a luxury of focusing on yourself. So that's what I was able to do at some point. But as we talked about before, raising vibration, when things were difficult, I would just focus on small small joys, small pleasures, and take comfort in that. And that was a raising of vibration thing now. So when I think about it in terms of heart, that's really what it is, you know? And I think for most of us, we have followed maybe self-help books, different practices, different ways. Andrew's mentioned meditation to try and cope with life, to improve our health, our wellness, and so on. But we don't always do it. We read it and say, okay, fine. But when I was in a situation in the middle of a pandemic for so many months, then I was just doing it intuitively, I think. So when I look at a self-help book now or read anything about heart coherence or so on, I said, well, yes, I did that. But it wasn't from something I read or something that I was told to do. It was something that I felt from the inside. And that's where I still am now. So I can look at definitely a before COVID me and a post-COVID me in terms of how I feel my emotions, how I express my emotions, and what that means in terms of being balanced, I guess, in life.
Mm. That's a wonderful story. I'm really glad you shared that. I'm really glad to hear that you were saying that you basically worked it out intuitively, which I actually think that we all have that. And sometimes, though, we need a bit of a reminder, a bit of a knock on the door, or somebody giving us a gift of a little technique or something like that, just to get us back on track. And I wanted to mention that because a big part of this webinar today is actually to give you a really, really basic technique. I'm not talking about you, Amanda and Andrew, but anyone who listens to this now or the post recording. It's so simple. And I have to say that I've been putting it into practice myself since I started looking at it probably a couple of weeks ago now. And I've just noticed how much a huge change it's made to not only my emotional well-being, but also my physical well-being and how I interact with those around me. It's actually quite astounding because it's so simple, but so profoundly effective. So I'm really
often
looking
forward. The small and simple things, isn't it?
Absolutely.
It's often the small and simple things to do.
Absolutely. Yeah. So before we dive into that technique, I've got a few things that I was just going to go through, just notes, a bit of background information. So we're talking about the heart, and now we're actually talking about the heart and the brain and how much they have communication and interaction. And a lot of people probably think that the brain is the controller and controls more the heart and the rest of the body, but it's actually been shown now that the heart has neurons, and those neurons, they're like little nerve cells. They have memory, both short and long-term memory. And the heart communicates to the brain, and then the brain communicates back to the heart. But it's actually the heart that's doing most of the talking, most of the communicating, which is really interesting. So the way I interpret that is that our feelings, what we're actually feeling in our heart, is affecting our mind, our thoughts. But anyway, maybe Andrew or Amanda, do you want to expand or anything on that?
So regarding the
heart and brain interaction.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that they're strongly connected, and I think unless the two of them are working in tandem and quite closely synchronized, then it's difficult for the intuition to come, because I think the intuition is really connected strongly with the heart, but we perceive a lot through our mind, which is connected to our brain. And so I think you need both, and then I think it's important to express the stuff that is happening within you. Otherwise, often then we don't listen to the intuition, then we sort of don't start to recognize it. I think we need to create a flow through the body into service or whatever expression we come up with.
Awesome. Yeah. I was just going to also, I mentioned before about the electrical magnetic field around the heart, which we all know exists because we're we have the ECGs, electrocardiograms, so we know that the heart does put out a field. But through the research that a lot of research that HeartMath is doing, they're actually saying that our field, our electrical field that expands from our heart, goes a whole meter in each direction around us, which is amazing when you think about that. And what I was thought about when I was reading that, I was thinking, well, we're in contact with people all the time. And I see our electrical magnetic field as being, you could say, a transporter of information. It's a what do you call? It's a relayer of information. So if we are sitting next to someone or in a house with somebody or seeing a lot of somebody, we're always interacting. Our fields are merging, our heart fields are merging. We don't even need to be saying anything, but we're actually then feeling what they've got in their field. And I think that's amazing. That can work, of course, positively. It can work not so positively. And but once we learn this technique of the heart coherence, the quick heart coherence, that becomes a really powerful tool to be able to positively influence people who are around us through our magnetic electrical field. So I think that's brilliant. And
yes, because
later on
we're talking about energy, aren't we? We're talking about energy here, aren't we? The energy we, I guess, is it transmitting? Is that what we're doing? Or
yes, and receiving both all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, because I had someone come to the house the other day, putting new curtains in, actually. And they came into the house and said, oh, this house has a beautiful energy. And a lot of people say that when they come into this space. I feel it, but other people do too. So I said to a friend, I said, well, is this, because it's a different culture, different country here. It doesn't happen all the time in Australia, I don't think. But everyone seems to feel that here. And I said to my friend, is this normal in this part? Do people talk about energy a lot? And she said, no, actually, they don't. Sort of the opposite. But she said, what you are doing, you are the one talking to me. You are one who is attracting people who are feeling that energy. So that was an interest. That's probably what you're talking about, isn't it? What you're putting out, you receive feedback.
Absolutely, Amanda, that's spot on. And I mean, I take it a step further, and I'm talking about energy. I actually think that material matter, even walls and doors and houses, have the ability to absorb the thought and feeling energies, so that someone, when they come into your house, they'll immediately feel, I guess, the conglomerate of all that feeling and thoughts that you've put into that area. So it's quite an amazing thing.
It must have a nice history, this house, I imagine, because I'm just new in it.
Yeah, well, I remember checking out for the ALA conference a venue recently, and when I went to have a look, the lady showed me a meditation room, and for many years this one room has been used by countless number of people as a space where they group meditate, and it was quite palpable, the energy of the room and the sense of peace had quite a different quality. So I definitely resonate with that.
That's great. Then you don't actually have to do much work when you go into a room like that. You instantly pick up on all the previous feelings and energy that's stored there, and you just fit in, just go on, ride the wave.
Exactly.
It's beautiful.
Oh, it certainly felt like I could just jump into meditation very quickly in that space, for sure.
That's wonderful. And I won't spoil the fun, but that is something wonderful. We're going to share some news about a special place and a special event following on from what Andrew has said, but we'll save that for another time. So I'm going to jump into the topic of what is heart coherence. So I guess we've all got our idea of what it actually is, but if you can think that our heart has a rhythm, our brain has a rhythm, and our body, aspects of our body has a rhythm, and when those rhythms are all synchronized or even if they're just harmoniously working together, then we're said to be in coherence. And that is a very beneficial state of being to be. So when a person is super stressed or frustrated, they will be, their energy is not coherent. They haven't got heart coherence. But when they're feeling calm and happy and peaceful, then they're in coherence. I actually saved a slide which I wanted to share on this topic. So I may just, if someone else wants to speak on that while I just find the slide, it won't be a tick.
I'm just noticing I have hearts behind me on the wall. And that wasn't intentional. They live there and they came with the house.
That's beautiful.
Mm.
Okay. So I was just mentioning about coherence, heart coherence. So this is a little graph. It's from the Heart Math Institute. And by the way, anyone who's interested in this topic, I would highly recommend to go to the heartmath.org website. They've got so much great and free information. But this slide came from there. So you can see the first graph where there's frustration. There's a measurement of the heart rhythm and the pattern. You can see that it's uneven, it's jagged, it's incoherent, you could say. And then the second one, when a person's feeling appreciation, then you can see the heart rhythm starts to normalize, it starts to regulate itself, and you can see just such a beautiful big difference. So I wanted to show you that. So what happens when our heart goes into a high coherence state? Our physical body and our emotions benefit. So whatever we can do basically to increase that heart coherence is going to have an amazing beneficial effect on our being. So the heart coherence affects our physiological functions. In particular, they've studied our immunity, which I think is really important given with everything that's been happening in the last few years. So Amanda just gave that example of when she was locked up, that the negative emotions, it's the default which happens as a byproduct of the situation. But it's so important, especially at that time, to do little exercises that's going to put the heart back into coherence so that our immunity and our body doesn't suffer, so it comes back to a strong level. So yeah, when the heart is in a coherent state, we tend to be emotionally balanced, we have stability, we have more access to our intuition. It's when ideas come forth. We have more mental clarity, we can focus and clearly think, and we can even study better. So we have a better recall, a better memory. And even for sports people, the whole coordination aspect also improves when heart coherence level goes up. So pretty phenomenal what simple heart coherence can do. So the next question begs, how does heart coherence actually occur? And it's as simple as it coming after feelings of love and compassion, feelings of care for somebody, or feelings of joy. And it's so simple. Mm-hmm. So, and also loving thoughts of and gratitude. So then if you start, I have a little practice that I do every day. I've started initiating it where I go for a walk and I speak out aloud. Actually, no one's around me, so I'm quite free to do that. But I aim for 108 things that I'm grateful for, that I'm really appreciative for. And it's just stunning how great you feel after doing that exercise. Yeah.
That's a lot. So, 108. Wow. It's so specific too.
It's very specific. I actually followed someone's teaching. They wrote a book and they talked about the power of gratitude. And you know how there's 108 beads on a mala when they do chanting? So instead of doing the chant each 108 times as you move a bead each time, they moved a bead for one for each gratitude. There's something about the Buddhist or the Hindu thing about 108. You might know, Amanda. I don't know.
I don't know. I'd forget and repeat things, I'm sure.
It's okay if you do that.
Okay. Yeah.
Anyway, coming to measuring the heart coherence, there's some really great scientific methods to actually give you feedback whether you're in a state of high heart coherence or low heart coherence. I had a little device. It was from HeartMath. HeartMath puts out all sorts of great things. I think that one was called an EM Wave Pro or something like that. And basically what it's doing, you put a little clip on your ear, which measures the heart rate. I'm not sure what else it does. It might be skin resistance as well. But it feeds into a little program, a little bit of software, and it will give you feedback about your heart rate variability. And that's what this is all hinged upon. This is the more scientific aspect of the heart coherence. And I don't know if you're interested. If you want me just to very briefly explain what heart rate variability is, what do you think, Amanda? And
So, yes.
yes.
Please.
So heart rate variability, everyone's familiar with the heart rates. In fact, what I'm going to do in a moment, I'll show you a nice graph of heart rate variability. But there's a peak that goes up and down with your heart rate, and there's a pause or there's a rest period in between each one of those heartbeats. Actually, I'm going to share it now because I think it's appropriate. Here we go. So you can see how our heart beats. And contrary to what most people think, the heart is actually not meant to beat really rigidly, regularly. That's actually a sign of an unhealthy heart and body. It's meant to have variability, like in other words, you can see the amount of milliseconds in between each heart beat. And so you're meant to have a stretchy amount of variability between each of those. And the heart rate variability decreases as you age. And what it's meant to actually look like when you're in high heart coherence, if you can imagine, there's almost like a sine wave. So the pauses are short and then they're a bit longer and a bit longer and a bit longer and then long. And then they're a bit shorter and shorter and shorter. So in other words, it's like a rhythmic expansion and decrease of the pauses. We're not looking at the actual heartbeat, but the pauses in between. So that's what the heart rate variability is. And that's what the heart coherence is all based on, basically, is the heart rate variability. And the reason why that's really important is because it shows you what your autonomic nervous system is doing. And autonomic nervous system, everyone probably knows, there's the parasympathetic nervous system and the sympathetic. There's the one that rests, and then there's the one that's like an accelerator. It just goes full power. And it's really important to have a nice flow in between and a nice balance between those. So the heart rate variability is an excellent measure of what your autonomic nervous system is actually doing. I quickly jotted down just a couple of tips on what you can do to keep your heart rate variability nice and healthy. And I'll just quickly zoom through them. Eating low sugar and low carb diet, avoiding eating late at night, staying hydrated, drinking lots of water, not drinking too much alcohol, exposing yourself to sunlight every day, working with your circadian rhythms, making sure you get decent sleep, managing your stress, intentional breathing, which I think is a huge one, having more touch, in other words, probably hugging more people, and exercise, particularly long walks and weightlifting, connecting to nature, and most important is inducing feelings of gratitude and love. So they're all things that have a beneficial effect on our heart rate variability. So I just mentioned that there's ways you can measure the heart rate variability. HeartMath has got an app. I'm not sure if it's free or not, but it's an app that you can monitor while you're meditating or thinking beautiful thoughts to give you feedback. It's like a biofeedback device, and it's also got a sound and audio aspect on it, so it will give you real live information, feedback on how you're doing. And when I used to use mine, it would show when I'm in actually scores, low, medium, and high. I don't actually use it anymore, but yeah, it's quite a great device. And I just wanted to mention that we have somebody in our International Light Association who created quite an amazing tool to measure the heart rate variability and the heart coherence. And that's Rasmus Galphausen. I think that's his surname. He's Austrian, and he's made a fantastic system called the Sound of Soul. Is that correct? Amanda, if you wanted to talk about that, and I'll just get a picture up of that for everyone.
Very briefly, I haven't actually used it myself. Excuse me. Sorry, I've lost my voice for a minute.
That's all right. No problem.
By the way, I experienced it a little bit, just a couple of times as a demo, and yeah, it was like a joyous experience. I would put it as, even though it was quite simple, just the way it was really feeding back my rhythms of my heart really back to me in a way which created some sort of resonance. So yeah, you can explain more about it.
Amanda, did you want to expand on that?
Not really, because I have not experienced it. But what I have experienced is the resonance of music and of sound and voice, actually. I think that's a very powerful thing. So I know Rasmus has got a beautiful system. I think maybe there is someone in Australia who has it. I'm not sure. We can find out about that later. But basically, as Andrew said, it feeds back your own heart rhythms to yourself. So does it change your emotions, Andrew? Is that what you found?
It did for I only tried it for a short time. It did it during it and for a period of time afterwards. But that's a few years ago now that I actually tried that, so I can't give you more info.
Yeah. And was there a particular type of sound that is in the system, or is it?
Well, yeah, you can change it to all different sorts of instruments. So whatever instrument really resonates with you, that's that's part of it. Part of that experience, because that sort of that instrument or set of instruments, really fills you with joy, together with that, I don't know, somehow the echo back of yourself. I would put it as.
Yeah. I was actually explaining to someone here about color therapy, and I showed them a video of Anna Di Mattel's Sensora system. I videotaped a bit, and she focused in on the music. She could hear the frequencies that was intentional in the music he'd chosen. So that was very interesting, I thought.
Oh, that's great. Yes, that particular system, the Sound of Soul, is quite amazing. It's well, not only does it give you feedback because you can hear the music change as your heart starts to go into a more coherent state, but it also gives you that soothing effect. I actually thought that it could be very good for people who are experiencing actual physical heart conditions as well. because no doubt if they can get into a state of high heart coherence, their physical heart's going to really benefit as well. There's quite a few different ways that we do get into the heart coherence. I've mentioned a few, but in my mind, I think the feelings and the breathing are the two key things. And that's why in this, I've got a technique to show you, and I'll just go through it with you. I'll explain it at the end of this session. We'll just actually do the exercise all together. But this quick coherence technique really is so simple. It mainly relies on those two things, breathing and inducing feelings of gratitude or love or joy. So very potent. So maybe I'll explain that now. It's so simple. There's 3 steps to the process. The first one, and I will take you through this later, but the first one is basically putting focus on your heart area. And then the second one is heart-focused breathing, which basically means that you slow down your breathing and you're breathing in and out of your heart. And then the third step is to activate feelings that are beneficial of care or gratitude or love or joy. And I've met some people who find that part really hard. But so I've sort of stretched the what you can reach out for to bring those feelings into your heart. And for me, I thought maybe we could all share certain things that might bring that feeling to you. But for me, I remember experiences, for example, when I was a teenager and I was riding on the back of a motorbike and I had the wind in my hair and I felt free and the sunshine, or swimming in the ocean near a turtle. So I think of experiences, or I'll think of my deceased mother who I had so much love for. And I just feel so much love when I think of her. So the key is trying to activate this feeling in your heart. And there's many different ways. You can rely on your memories of past things, or you can rely on somebody or a pet, even a pet that you just love and care for. It could even be a place in nature that gives you a certain type of feeling. So I don't know, Amanda and Andrew, did you want to share maybe some of your own personal things that you would focus on that would give you that feeling?
I'll just check whether my voice is working now. I think it's back. I tend to focus on where I am in the present, actually, because I move around a lot. Now I'm in Europe. A couple of months ago, I was back home in Australia. So every morning I would get up very early, leave the house at 6 and go for a nice long walk with music. So I was getting exercise. But I found that really being in that moment of movement and music is important. And I end up in a park in a nice space, sit under a tree at sunrise with the sun on my face. And that was a beautiful thing to do. And you find moments of inspiration there. You find moments of peace there. But where I am now, I can't do that. It's snowing outside, excuse me. And there are no footpaths to walk where I am. And it's icy and slippery, so I don't do that so much. So I have to find other ways to get the movement and music here, which is basically walking around up and down the hallway, which is not the same at all. I'm missing Australian summer a lot. But yeah, movement and music is very important in being where I am now. So just now, I see there's birds flying outside the window, landing in my roof. And that brings me joy as well. So it's wherever I am.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it's interesting. Each person has their own way. But yeah, for me, there's memories, particularly of childhood, or, we used to always visit Queensland, and just the warmth and the smell of the place and the brightness and, the different bird sounds and things like that. So yeah, it's a lot connected with holidays, but particularly also loved ones, remembering images of them, laughing and smiling and enjoying themselves and being in that presence. I also got a turquoise gemstone, which is, when I look at it, it just fills me with joy. There's like blue sky thinking, and it really energizes my vision. You got that sense of freedom and lightness, and that anything's possible. So yeah, there are a few different things.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah,
Maniisha? Already said,
oh,
sorry.
well, I did say, but I have so many, and I'm glad that you mentioned birds, because birds give me so much joy in the moment when I can hear the birds singing. Yeah, but memories of beautiful times, or thinking about my daughter as well, who I have so much love and my son, and I don't see them that often. So what you can actually recognize when you get that feeling, it's sort of like not to be corny, but it's like a warm, fuzzy feeling in the heart. That's really what it feels like. I think
And what I
so.
find is you can train yourself to feel it. You
Yes.
said before that some people do find it difficult to associate with the feelings of gratitude and so on, but it's something you can train yourself to do. It's like with meditation. It takes a while to learn the steps and the process, but once you get into it, you can drop into it. I use a grounding practice that I've been following for a little while now. And at first it was more intentional. I was following the steps and doing the thing, but now I can just step into that feeling just automatically. And so it's something that you can train yourself to do. So I'm interested to practice our little process that you've got at the end, Maniisha, to see how that works for our heart coherence.
Awesome. That's great. Yeah. And I'll just mention about that, Amanda. I'm glad that you mentioned that. Now you've practiced, and now it becomes really easy. And I think that's great. And one of the things that's recommended with this little exercise is that it can be done for such a short period of time, even a minute. But if you can do it a couple of times, more frequently, that's when it gets really potent. And one of the suggestions that's made is that in transitions of the day, so for example, you've finished work, you're coming home, you just do it for a minute or two while you're driving home. You finish working on the computer and you go to the kitchen to make dinner, you just go into it. So transitions are a great time to just do it for a minute, and you'll see when you've done the exercise how simple it is. Okay, just before we actually do the exercise, I know that we're coming close to the hour. I just wanted to mention that on the website for HeartMath, they have plethora of different types of exercises, but there's two of them which are a natural extension of this simple, basic, quick technique, which I wanted to mention to you. And one of them is based on what's called social coherence. And in other words, this whole technique is based really for us to get us into a state of heart coherence. But the next step is, once you get that feeling within you, then you can start to spread it out to others. And that we explained how that works also through our electromagnetic field, that we affect others. But there's so many applications of where you can actually do that. So I've been doing it with for my companion who I live with, but you can do it in a work situation, or you can do it in a family if you're having troubles with a certain child or whoever. So in any groups or any people around you, you can practice it. And then, so the second step, the social coherence, is where you start to spread this feeling out to other people. You actually imagine them and you spread it out to people. I'll take you through that bit when we do the exercise. And then the next natural step from that is what's called global coherence. And this is a way that we can really effectively, simply, and passively make a difference. And so once we have this feeling inside us individually, and then our immediate environment of our people we love and care for, then we can go a step further and we can go out to the world. So we can start thinking, sending this feeling to perhaps the people in Turkey who've just experienced an earthquake, or to whoever on the planet, a whole nation who are struggling, for example. And you can just do it in 15 seconds. It can be so short, it doesn't matter. But it's a way to expand the love on the planet, basically, and spread the coherence. So it's beautiful. So maybe we'll launch into it, into the practical exercise. I just wanted to mention too that you can actually write a list of the things you're grateful for. That's another method to get into the heart space. So there's quite a few different ways to do it. And we're thinking that at the end of this exercise, we'll probably close off because we'll be all in a beautiful, nice state. So what I wanted to do before we start then, I just wanted to give an invitation to whoever's listening to this, whenever you're listening to this, for an encouragement to practice this very simple technique for a period of 30 days, just to give it a go and just observe and see what you might get from it. And one last thing, just to remember that small snippets is all it takes. It doesn't need to be long. They're very powerful. All right. Can you, Amanda or Andrew, share anything else before we launch into this exercise that you want to?
Now let's get into it.
So it's probably easier to do if you close your eyes. So if you could all, wherever you are, just start by closing your eyes and put your focus onto your heart area and just start to breathe a little deeper and a little slower than normal. See if you can reach for 5 or 6 seconds in breath and 5 or 6 seconds out breath. Just imagine that you're actually breathing through your heart. Just picture yourself slowly breathing in and out through your heart area. Now see if you can activate a positive feeling as you maintain your heart focus and breathing. See if you can remember a time when you felt good inside. And try and see if you can re-experience that feeling. Really feel it. Or you can remember a special place, maybe in nature. Or the love that you feel for someone very close, a close friend, a relative, or a treasured pet. Keep breathing in through the heart while you're feeling this feeling. Once you have that feeling, start spreading that feeling. Imagine that beautiful, warm feeling spreading throughout your body first, to all the cells. Millions of little cells in your body are getting this feeling. spread it further. Spread it out to some other people who are around you, people who you care about, or people who you know need some loving help and care. Keep remembering the heart feeling and return to your heart breath. Keep remembering your special place or experience or person to keep the feeling alive. Now you can spread the love out further to parts of the world, to people in countries who you feel need some help. Keep spreading that feeling. Now you can come back to your heart again. Focus on your breathing. Breathing in and out of your heart again. Remember your special place or person or experience. Feel the feeling of love. Whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes. Wonderful. Thank you so much. It's be very short and simple, or you can do it for 10 minutes in the morning. Start the day in a good, beautiful tone. Lovely. Well, with that, maybe we can finalize our webinar. I just want to remind you how powerful this simple exercise can be if you repeat it often. So give it a go. We'd love to hear from you, actually, to hear what might come of it, if you feel inspired to do that. All right, Andrew and Amanda, anything you'd like to close with?
Thank you, Maniisha.
Thank you.
And yeah, there's a lot of information people can look at either on the HeartMath website or many other places as well to find out more about it. But yeah, like echo what you said, it just takes small, more constant steps, throughout the day. Things that don't exhaust us, things that it's just easy to take a moment here and there amongst different things.
Lovely. Totally true. All right then, well, we'll probably sign off now, and thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Bye for now.